Hey everybody, this is Grace and I am outside. It's August the 9th, 2025 and 7:28 p.m. It says it's set 94 degrees. I've checked, let's see, the Weather Channel. I'm not sure what this, one of them is MSM weather. I'm not sure what the other one is. But they all say basically something different. But it is supposed to cool down. This is Texas, northeast of Dallas, and it's a suburb, big city to itself even, and I think the population is something like 300,000. So yeah, and it's been a really nice actually, spring then summer. Usually our summer goes into the springtime. It's been very cool. The weather hasn't been too bad. We've had some days, but more recently, but not really as many as we're used to, I would say. Like this coming week, it's going to be like in the mid 90s. Say hang around the mid 90s, and but the heat index will probably be like 100. So like it's been in the hundreds. Today was the worst. It got up to 108 that I saw. It could have gotten higher, but I saw 108. So as heat index. But anyway, get the weather out of the way. I like to start my videos with something other than the topic sometimes. Every once in a while, talk a little bit of weather. But one of the things I want to talk about today is I had just put up a video I made, I think, on the 31st. Today is the 9th. And it was basically me saying that I was tired of, I think that what it was saying, I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I think in part of it I was saying I was tired. I think I was kind of tired of talking about the e-beggars, these e-beggars and grifters, swindlers, online, the ones that make videos and they con their audiences. Wow, what's Freudian? They're con artists that con their audiences into giving them money. Some of them get lots of money. And I've seen this for years. This month is 11 years on my original channel. Probably not this one. I don't put this kind of thing on my original channel. 11 years. So I've seen quite a bit. I had my first computer in 1982. I've seen quite a bit. So it's really, as far as social media, probably more like I'm not exactly sure, but maybe 1990. It's really when I got really into it. And it wasn't much back then. It was new. So, quite new. So anyway, but if you keep hearing the noise, I had my Adam got my SUV detailed. It had a lot of sap on it from he calls it sap, from crepe myrtle that I usually have you see in the upper, I think it shows up as the upper right-hand corner of the video, and the wind has blown all that down. Well, it got all over my SUV on that side. He cut down the limbs since then, but he had my SUV detailed, and I don't think neither one of us was thinking that they're going to spray. They're going to use a lot of cleaning stuff and spray, probably like that new car smell on it, And oh my goodness, I have chemical allergies. Fragrance, I try everything fragrance free, like laundry detergent, dishwashing liquid, this kind of stuff. And man, the first time I got in it was like later that day, and it like to knock me down, the smell. And yeah, but as it is, they cleaned everything. It looks really nice, very nice. And but inside, if you hear a noise, let me see if I can make the noise. Right here, can you hear that noise? That's my elbow on the door, the whatever you call it, where all the roll the window down, lock and stuff like that. And because it's so slick in there, everything is slick. It makes this noise, and then this other thing, the console makes the noise. It's like everything in here makes a noise. So at least it's not making the noise it used to. And this is a 2019. Bought it new. It still has, it only has 22,726 miles on it. That is very unusual, especially for us. Well, he had some SUV too, but that is amazing. So I haven't really driven it much, but it looks nice. But anyway, okay, maybe I should skip to my topic, because I don't know how long already I'm gone on. But yeah, you know, I had been on this thing, you know, something had happened. I don't know what it was. It was a few months ago. I think it was in April. I think so, April. Or somewhere around there, earlier this year. This one woman, I had watched a little bit of her before, of her channel on YouTube. And I don't say their names or their channel names, anything like that. My thought is to talk about the behaviors and or, you know, just I use my channels to vent what I see, you know, my reactions to it. It's like for me, I'm not saying anybody else this is good, but it would be good. But for me, it's good because I get to vent, use it as a pressure release valve, vent, and move on with my life, go on and do other things. And it's been good for me overall. And anyway, but so back in, I gotta find a place to put my elbow better, but back in April. Okay, come on, I just woke up, by the way. I couldn't sleep last night. I think I went to bed like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. But and I was up most of the day, up and down. But anyway, so back in April, this woman's channel came back across, and I had stopped watching her. I had watched her a little bit, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, I don't know. And I didn't find her very impressive. And so I just stopped watching, and then it came back around, and I'd basically forgotten, you know, what it was that I didn't like about her. You know, what was it that just, I stopped watching her. Then I started watching her, and I thought, oh, hey, she's okay. So I watched some of her older videos, kept watching, and because I kept seeing, this was a build-up of, you know, stuff I have seen for all these 11 years. At some point during these 11 years, I started seeing these e-beggars and such, and it's as though they are scripted in how they work it. I mean, it's not exactly the same, and of course they're different people. It's going to be different anyway because of that. But the theme, what they will use to con their audiences is pretty much along the same line, if not the same thing. Like they'll talk about, some of them will say that they're Christians, and the stuff they do is not Christian-like. Okay, some of them will actually go to the nerve of taking out their Bible and acting like they're reading it, you know, silently. I mean, it is not just one person. Over all these years, it's not the same people. It's different, you know, it's different. Some of them are still doing it probably. Some of them, I checked on, they're still doing it. And plus you have these reaction channels, and some of them turn the same way. Not everybody who says that this kind of thing, here's another thing, is that many of them will say they don't have money for food. And boy, that gets the audience sending them money. They don't have enough money for food. And when often there's quite a lot that, you know, begs to differ. Like some of them actually go and cook, do cooking videos. And one woman, I decided to calculate how much it was that she was cooking. How much the food cost. I'm an old homemaker now. Not old, but 62 years old, and I started cooking when I was a child. I have a clue. You know, I'm the homemaker, one who buys the groceries. I have a clue. But I looked up some of it. Some of them I never heard of it. You know, some things. And, you know, guesstimated and all that. And one of them was a side salad for just two servings. That's it, just 2 servings. That means one person one serving that day, and then another serving that other day, or two people, just one serving. It's not like they were going to have leftovers. Nope, no leftovers. A side salad. The total for the side salad, $42.14. $42.14. And then they had, say, meat with it, and she had cooked some meat, $38 for just the same serving size amount. No, that's kind of evidence against them not having money for groceries. So in my view, okay, in my view, there's a lot more. But anyway, these kinds of things, and then let me move ahead a little bit here. And stuff like that, and it wasn't just one person, by the way. No, it wasn't just one person. I say it often as though it was one person, because I can use one of them as an example, but it was more than one person doing these things at the same time. This year, and every year, different people, all these years. 'Tis the season, but this is this year I think I've spent more time on it than ever before. All these 11 years. And, I may have skipped a year or something, or just didn't make much video. This year, no. Because there was something else that came across as recommended to me. And that was these women. It was all women. Well, I did watch some men, but they weren't doing the same thing. And so I'm not really picking on women. It was just that they were the majority. And the men weren't doing the same thing, like I said. But it was women who were talking about, and they would put the title incorrect as it was for a good part, as food bank. They would put bank when it was pantries. Food bank hauls, HAULS, videos, okay? And they would show what they got from food banks. It was free food. And they would talk about, how they got them. Some people were legit. They needed it. They weren't saying this kind of stuff. The other ones were saying things like, they have the money. They're not at the point where they don't have money. They have the money to go buy the groceries, but they don't want to spend that money. And whether they're married or what, they have full-time jobs, part-time jobs, whatever it is, but they don't want to spend that money. They want to put that aside for, extra stuff. They're not talking about essentials. They're talking about extra stuff. Like, take their families out to the restaurants. Okay, you don't have enough money for groceries, but you can go to restaurants? Or on vacations. Or, hey, it's time they say that they deserve some big ticket item. You know what big ticket items are. Okay? Now, these food banks, I actually have spoken to more than one in my lifetime about what are food banks. Food banks is, from what I understand, is technically the distribution. That's where it's like a warehouse, a distribution. That's where it all goes to, and then they distribute it to the food pantries, or the food pantry people come and get it from there, stuff like that, along that line. And so, what are these food pantries all about? Ask these kinds of questions. And it's for the needy, people who do not have enough money for groceries. They're not trying to set money aside for frivolous stuff. No, they don't even have the money. They fear not being able to eat. You understand? And it could be people with children, single parents with children. It could be anybody. If somebody who's just down on their luck, like some people say, they just lost their job, they're unemployed, they don't have enough money for their rent and their bills, and this is just temporary. Bad things happen, maybe. Some people became disabled. Some people are elderly, and they're living on fixed income, and it's just not cutting it. Maybe they had somebody else, and that person, like their spouse, and that person passed away, and they're just not getting You know, they can't afford everything. You know, people who are actually needy. Not people living in middle class and even upper middle class homes that at work, sometimes more than one job, and have three to four people working in that home, adults who can, yes, afford groceries and all the food that they need, but they don't want to. They want to save that for their trips and their fun and their movies and their eating out and their vacations. The greedy, in other words. That's my view. So no, it's made for the needy, not the greedy. So this kind of stuff's coming one after another. You know that some people call it the rabbit hole. I think there was years ago there was a whole lot of people saying, don't call it that. There's no rabbit hole you fall down and all this stuff. But anyway, I remember from a long time ago, I don't know, sometime during this 11 years. So okay, so this was what I was, saying in that little video, I'm guessing, that went on. I just listened to a little bit. But you know what? I've had enough of that. I'm moving on. Plus, I had another experience with yet another doctor, and it was so bad. Adam went with me. I couldn't sleep that night before. I only got a few, maybe if at all, 4 hours of sleep that night. And Adam went with me. He's older than I, and he and I are very different, and he was just once again shocked by the way that doctors speak to me, and the way that they play games and stuff like that. And it was a new to me doctor. He'd already had his somebody in his office, I guess the way they put it, call me before then and reschedule an appointment. I have a life too. 2 days before the appointment, I have a life. So I don't appreciate. I've been rescheduled by this group or this whatever they're going to call themselves, but just not that kind of doctor. All the doctors together been rescheduled this year alone, like I say 10 times from different fields, give or take 10 times. We have lives, patients. Just rude all around. Just it's supposed to be like one of or the best in Texas. Really, this is what's the best, or close to it. But anyway, it was a bad day, and by the evening, I wasn't feeling well. I was telling Adam I was not well, and he said, "Yeah, it must be the stress." He was stressed out too, because that experience. Each time he sees it, it's more and more, because he's starting to see it in what he's doing too, and the doctors and such. I think it opened his eyes, and before he was just in. He's not one to pay much attention to what goes on socially at all anyway. And I am a sociologist, so I'm a social behavioral scientist. So of course I'm going to see it. But of course, I shouldn't be seeing it. Really, there should be no reason, but there always is. And I am not the only person. Okay? I'm not being singled out. I don't think so. But I think this is just what it is these days. But it could be just my experience. Can't say it was all of them, so I don't know all of them. But anyway, later on that night, I wasn't feeling well, and after being spoken to this way, after all that I went through, and by like 1 o'clock, I think it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, late at night, I was there's a half bath, and it's near the master bedroom. And I was yelling, screaming, whatever you want to call it. Raised my voice real loud to get Adam to come. I said, come help me. I was violently ill. Okay, and I think that I could say, oh, it's just food poisoning. I really don't know how it would have been food poisoning, but yeah, I got really, really very ill. And I haven't been taking any antibiotics since last year, maybe. So that antibiotics, certain one couldn't do it, or certain one of them. Oh man, but it was bad. I was I was fearing my life, you know. So I've had all this stuff. Plus the other day, just the other evening, what was it, 3 evenings ago? I was in a superstore, you know, that's got the grocery store on one side, and then all that other stuff on the other side. Huge one. This is Texas. We grow everything big in Texas. Yeah, everything's big. We have lots of wide open spaces. We have lots of places that they can build stuff. And it goes on and on, this one store. I mean, really. And I was in there, and I was in the middle of the left-hand side in the grocery section. Frozen foods. We usually don't eat frozen foods, but I was checking it all out. And I heard a man screaming, yelling, really aggressive, very aggressively, very deep voice, very yelling, and I couldn't understand what he was saying because I was so deep in this place. And I wasn't at the back. I was in the middle. And immediately, you know, that feeling, because we, you know, some of the stuff we see on TV news, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to spell it all out, but, and I was by myself. Usually Adam goes with me, but I was by myself this time, and I was happy. I was going to go by and just, you know, go buy some groceries slowly, just take my time, you know. And I heard that man yelling, and everybody else just kind of stopped, and, you know, everybody that I would see they were like just fear. And some person come in the front of the store, and then 2 other men with booming voices. I mean, they turned out to be what I would expect. And that was these big, massive men. Okay, massive sized men. I had seen, I think, 2 pairs of them in the store earlier. And I think that they were bodybuilders from somewhere around there. And I would think so. I mean, they're buffed. I mean, I don't know the term people used. But massive. And they were yelling. I couldn't understand what they were saying. Because I saw them as I was trying to move to the other side of the store. You know, I learned a lot. My brain thinks in terms of find some place to hide. Okay, if you had to hide. Now, because of my muscle atrophy, and I'm going to start physical therapy back again, I was in one of those shopping carts, electronic shopping carts, you know, scooters. And they don't go very fast. And as it is, I have this muscle atrophy that I'm going to start physical therapy back for anyway. Plus the heart failure early this year, I don't want to put much strain on my body in the meanwhile. And with all that, I mean, it was frightening. But as it turns out, it seems like the other 2 guys, maybe I did hear at one point one of them yelling and say, "You don't come in the stores," something like that, yelling like that, you know. And as I passed by there, I could see them up front, and the guy I saw him, huge guys, and he was watching that other guy. So they weren't together, but it could have been that they were together and telling everybody, you know, like you see on what would be the start of something that you see on the news. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of all this stuff. And so I put this video up today. It's getting too long, But I thought, you know, the thing about it is, since that day, another thing came across as recommended, you know, to get this wrapped up. And that was, it's an old prejudice. It's sexism against women, young women who are, like, well, they are single parents, mothers. Yeah. Anyway, this is enough for this for now. Like I said, it's getting too long. I'll talk to y'all in another video. Bye.